All right. Good morning, everyone. We have a quorum. Would like to entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the February 11th, 2025 meeting that were mailed to you on February 19th.
I'll make that motion.
Mike,
I'll second.
Dave, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, moving on to the budget report. You can see on the revenue side for the month, we received our 2-month payment from Lot Holdings for the lease of the Midas building at $500. We also received Win Stanley's option payment of $25,000. We received some interest earnings on our T-bills, etc. Under the expenditures, the typical salary payment to the executive director. There's a payment to the Weston Company in the amount of $3,750. Payment for the IDA website, as well as our $1,500 sponsorship for the Embed and Brownfield Developers Summit. And then our insurance payment for Tryon, you can see down in the other non-operating expenditures. Tryon. On the bottom, you can see investments. Are there any questions on the budget report?
Is the 9 years, is that for 6 months or is that for the whole year, Scott?
I believe that's 6
I know we
months.
budgeted
Yeah, it's 6 months because you budget
$5,000.
$5,000.
Right.
So we may have to adjust that. It did go up, if I recall, from what Carol had mentioned. So
Okay.
we may have to look at that and adjust that accordingly. So,
Okay. Thank you.
would you like to make a motion to approve the budget report?
I'll make a motion.
By Dan,
Second.
second by Joe Samuel.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays. All right, audit committee, Sue Collins, reviewed the monthly bank reconciliation report.
I reviewed the monthly bank reconciliation report and everything was in order.
Okay, thank you. And our county reports, Mr. Roll.
Board met yesterday, not a lot of economic development activity this month, but a couple of notes of economic development. It's in your packet now too, as Scott does provide the Economic Development Committee agenda. The committee discussed the Johnstown Commerce Park site analysis, infiltration and inflow removal project on the Gloversville sewer system. The bids will be awarded in mid-April for that. And the Ag and Farmland Protection Plan will be up for a public hearing by the supervisors also in mid-April. And just a little fun fact for you, Fulton County has 205 farms covering 23,000 acres. And that's my report.
Your report. Okay, any questions for Mr. Roll?
The fun question back to you. Have the farms come down over the years?
Oh yeah, the number of farms is down.
I'm sure it's about, it's the numbers dramatically down.
The little guys have struggled, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay. CRG report, Carrie, who's on Zoom.
Good morning, everybody. We had no new loan requests this month, and the annual organization meeting for the loan committee is being held. 2025 $300,000 micro enterprise grant. CRG is in the process of working through the next submission. We applied for and was successfully awarded the second New York State Fast Track B grant award in the amount of $434,700 for the Commerce Park, and applied for a workforce grant through the New York State Catalyst Program and was awarded $549,000. Delaware Engineering completed their engineering services contract for the Johnstown Commerce Park. The report brings Johnstown Commerce Park to the initial shovel-ready status. Shovel readiness is a continuum and an ongoing process until site users are identified. We recently sent out an RFP seeking an environmental engineering company to assist with our $500,000 EPA grant, received 5 suitable proposals, And we are reviewing committee chose HRP Associates as our qualified engineering professional, and they are awarding the contract. CRG is recently conducted the tour of electromagnetics located in Johnstown Industrial Park, and they're doing very well. CRG has first EPA Brownfield Task Force meeting. We are starting to identify potential sites to consider for phase 1 and 2 environmental analysis. The Gloversville Johnstown Development Specialist continues to meet with DRI project awardees and is currently working on capital stacking process for each project. The Gloversville DDS continues to work with downtown related activities, including the local waterfront revitalization program and the city's brownfield opportunity area. And that concludes the report.
Any questions for Ms. Easterly? No? Okay.
No, thank you, Jerry.
From the Fulton Montgomery Regional Chamber of Commerce, we have Ashley Capobianco here. Hello.
Hey, everybody,
To provide a quick report.
you got it. I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Ashley Capobianco. I'm on the chamber. I'm also human resources at Townsend Leather here locally in Johnstown, New York. I also own my side business, Everything Rustic and Unique by Ashley. I'm excited to be here on behalf of the board, and we're excited about our partnership with you guys. And without further ado, I'm going to give my quick chamber report. So on Friday, March 14th, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., Chamber one-on-one webinar series. It's learning how to maximize your chamber membership. Join us for our first quarterly webinar as we discuss an introduction to your Chamber of Commerce, our business education partnership, and an additional membership benefits. Free for chamber members and their employees. You can RSVP to 518-725-0641, or you can email fultonmontgomeryny@gmail.com. On Friday, March 28th, 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. This is going to be our speed networking event. So it's located at HFN Mosey's Conference Center on 2755 State Highway 67 in Johnstown. Watch for details and weekly email blast and on our Facebook page. On Thursday, April 3rd, 4 p.m. to 6:30. This is going to be our Business Expo and Chamber Award presentation. So this is going to be located at the Johnstown Moose in Johnstown. And there are opportunities for sponsorships and for tabling to display, talk about all of our business has to offer, and to attend to see your Chamber Award winners and presentations. Watch for our Facebook page for more information as it becomes available, or email ann@fultonmontgomeryny.org for sponsorship opportunities or to sign up. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's skip forward a few pages. Apologize, I didn't number the pages today. But under the new business, we have Amy Pedrick here from the Weston Company who's completed the audit of the 2024 financial statements. And this is Amy's second year of a 5-year rotation, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. I've asked Amy to have a seat just so she can shuffle through her paperwork, and she can also be on camera.
All right, thank you, Scott. So good morning, everybody. You have in front of you a Weston Company folder that has 2 draft financial statements. One being the actual financial statements of the IDA, and the other is the schedule of investments. And as Scott said, I'm in my second year. Mike Rossi, my other partner, was the partner prior. I've always been involved. I do work with the Paris reporting a little bit. So Scott and I are working on that as well this year. So I'm going to go over the thicker one first. I will start off by saying that the audit went very well. We have no management letter comments. Working with Scott and Carol, everything went very, very smoothly this year. Jim did provide some information for the MD&A prior to his retirement. So we did receive some stuff from him. And then Scott was very quick to get us everything working with Carol, and it went very, very smoothly. So for those of you that have seen the financial statements in the past, there's no new accounting changes that affected the IDA. So they're really set up the same as they have been, other than just the activity that happened during the year. I'm not going to go over all 28 pages. I'm just going to hit some highlights. But if there's any pages that you guys want me to stop and talk about more, any questions, you can stop me throughout the process. So pages 1 through 3 are one of the two opinions in this report that are from Weston Company. The financials are those of management. We do take management's information and compile them into this format, but it is managed, the financial statements themselves are management's. The only pages that are Weston Company's are the auditor's reports. So the very first two paragraphs under the word opinions, it says we've audited the financial statements of Fulton County IDA. And then it says, in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly. So that's a clean, unmodified opinion, which is the highest opinion we give as a profession and what the IDA has received in the past. And then the report further goes on to talk about what management's responsibilities are and what my responsibility as your auditor is. Then after that, we get to page 4. 4 through 14 is management's discussion and analysis. This has been in your financial statements for a while. This is the piece that Jim did provide prior to his retirement. So a lot of this information is very similar to what we have in the past. And the good news is not this year coming, but the year after that, there's a new accounting standard that comes out that affects this MD&A. It's going to require more information, but you guys are already in compliance because your MD&A is very detailed and very thorough. So there's not going to be any changes that are really going to affect you. You guys have a lot of narrative, a lot of description in there, and that's what they want to see in these MD&As. So you guys will be all set. So if you go to page 5 in this MD&A, it does talk about what tax exemptions you have. So you have Benjamin Warren, Hoffman Car Wash as your pilots that are active with tax exemptions, property tax exemptions. And then the next page has your Vireo Health with your sales tax. And then we go on pages 6 through 11, talks about your 2024 activities during the year. What things happened that kind of culminated in the financial statements that we're going to see in a couple minutes. So just talks about everything that you guys have gone through throughout the year. Then if you get to page 12.
Maybe just one quick
Yes,
thing here.
absolutely, Scott.
So this information that is in this particular audit is exactly the same information that we have in our annual report as a whole,
Yes.
right? That was front end, so we're kind of duplicating it.
Yes.
But, okay.
Yeah, but they are required. Well, less required now, but more required in 2 years. So, it's
Right.
good to have them in there.
Okay.
And especially if they're not that anybody's going to want to pick up these financials and just have some fun light reading. But if they did and they didn't see your annual report, they'd still get that information.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right.
So page 12 is your condensed statement of net position. So it's your balance sheet. And the financials we're going to look at in a second are only 1 year. This is comparative 1 year over the next. So it's just one good way to see what happened this year compared to 23. And the biggest changes in your current assets, and that's due to that Vireo admin fee. So you went up, your cash went up, cash and investments went up. And the next page, page 13, is that changes in that position or your income statement. And here you can see the admin fee for the Vireo. And then you see option revenue. This is something that we talked about last year. Scott mentioned to me yesterday too. That option revenue from Win Stanley went down in 24, but that's in that 27,005, and the other amount is the Nexus Renewables options recorded into revenue. So page 15 is just the more detailed version of your balance sheet. And you can see the breakdown between your cash. You have a little bit of Johnstown restricted cash left. It's just earning whatever interest it earns. And then your investments are your treasuries that you have.
Hey Scott, the Johnstown cash,
Mhm.
they've left money in for what reason?
Just because we have one tract of land left to sell.
Uh-huh,
So the thought process was to leave the account open.
gotcha.
And like we said, that interest payment was carried over from that previous year. So it's just sitting there.
Yeah, okay.
So,
So that's your balance sheet. Your total net position is 4.9 million, broken down to between your net investment and capital assets. And what that is, it's your development projects, it's your land, less that long-term debt that you've carried on your books, that which you will see in a footnote of the 514. And then the remaining is unrestricted net position. Page 16 is your statement of activities. So it's just, again, a more detailed breakdown of what makes up your general revenues, your program revenues, and your program expenses. Your professional fees, if that's combined with your Emory Design, your website, legal, accounting, things like that. Project costs is anything that going into, like costs going into the project, the land, anything you guys did during the year. You can see your interest income and then your realized and unrealized gains on securities. That's your investment income on those treasuries and any cash that you hold. So your net position went up $440,000, again, directly correlated with that admin fee that came in. Then I'm going to jump to 18, which is the footnotes. These are unchanged other than the activity. We didn't add any new footnotes. There was no new requirements for any footnotes to be added in. So footnote 1 is your summary of significant accounting policies, talks about the organization, who you are, what you do, and how you account for specific things. And it's unchanged from prior year. Footnote 2 on page 19 is just showing that City of Johnstown cash is our only restricted cash and what it's used for. And then on page 20, footnote 3 is your development project. So that's the value of your lands that you're holding, the cost value of the project, lands. $3.1 million you have between Industrial Park and Crossroads Business, Johnstown Industrial Park, and Tryon. And then the bottom below that is that long-term debt we talked about. So this is part of that Crossroads Business Park. You entered into agreement years ago with those 5 agencies. Up until when I came to West, you were just finishing accruing interest on that back in 2005, and then the interest has stopped accruing. I'm sorry, and we've been carrying that debt on the books as the same amount each year. Footnote 6 on the next page just says that we have that one YMCA bond, what the original issuance was, and the balance left on that of the 981. And then the very last couple parts of the financials, if you go to page 23, this is that second opinion that's from Weston Company. So we have to do what we call, it's a yellow book audit, but it just means you're a governmental entity. We have to do some extra work on your controls and compliance. So we're not an internal auditor. We're not looking at all your controls, but we look at the internal controls over financial reporting, and we have no significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses over that. Things are operating efficiently, and we have no compliance findings as well. So those are both clean opinions within this one. And then the very last part before we get to your code of ethics, which takes up the remainder, which is required to be in your financial due to per the ABO, is just that detail of the YMCA bond. So as a quick go through of the financials, did anybody have any questions on the financials, the audit process, anything like that before I move to the little one? All right. So the little one is the schedule of investments. This is something that the Authority Budget Office has required for a few years now. We have to audit your investments. It looks kind of silly because when we go in, it says we audited something that had a 0 balance because you don't have any long-term investments, but we're issuing that same clean unmodified opinion on this. And then page 3 says, oh, well, we issued a clean opinion on a 0 balance. It just looks so silly. Further into the footnotes, it does say that you have your treasuries. They're considered short-term, less than 1 year. So that's why you have 0 investments, and we have to list out your investment policy and what you guys permit as investments. So we do look at your policy, make sure it's in compliance, all that stuff. And we issue that same unmodified opinion on the internal controls over those 0 investments and compliance. So again, required by Paris, so we comply. And then once everybody's okay with these, we'll get them final. And then give the electronic copies to Scott so they can go up on your website and then get uploaded into Paris for that March, the end of March deadline.
Does your company have an opinion about our investments, our T-bills, and how we're rotating them? And is there better opportunities to make?
No, I think that's what we're seeing across the board is the T-bills in governmental entities, quasi-governmental entities. You know, you're limited to what you can invest in. We have some health consortiums, some workers' comp consortiums, and they've all gone to that treasury, especially while the rates were doing well, to earn that extra money. Yeah, it's good to take advantage of that while the rates are up. So yeah.
You can't do hedge funds, Joe. Black 22.
All right. Any additional questions or comments for Amy?
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, if there are none, I'd like to request a motion to approve the 2024 audit as submitted by the Weston Company, to authorize Weston Company and the executive director to file the audit in Paris, and the Fulton County Treasurer, the Commissioner of Department of Economic Development, the New York State Controller, and to post on the IDA's website.
Make the motion.
Sue,
I'll second.
Mike, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, motion carried. Also enclosed, you will see the IDA's 2024 annual report. Now, again, is what I just mentioned, to Amy. The front ends are exactly what are included in the audit. There's various components for this report. I sent this out via email to you earlier. Any questions and comments on this report?
It was pretty thorough.
Yep, pretty thorough. Mr. Morales did an excellent job. And it's good to know that we're gonna. She left, but. It's good to know the process that you've been undertaking all these years is. It's gonna have to be, next year, the year after, whenever the EBO says that they want more information, we're already doing it, so it's nice.
Yeah.
All right, there's no further questions on the annual report. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the 2024 annual report and to authorize and direct myself to file the annual report under Paris and the Board of Supervisors to post on the IDA's website. Would you like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion.
I second.
Joe Gibbs. Second by Joe Samuel. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No. Motion carried. All right. So, nine.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Nice ringtone. Go back to old business. Under the Nexus Renewables project at Tryon. The town of Johnstown extended. Okay, their 6-month moratorium or their moratorium for additional 6 months on their solar and battery storage regulations. Technically speaking, this would not expire until August 26, 2025. And I did relay this information during a virtual meeting I had with Nexus representatives on February 19th. And we do have Mr. Parrish here from the town of Johnstown. Do you have any additional insight into the moratorium? And
Yeah, we extended for 6 more months, but the solar end of it, the panels and everything won't be 6 months. It's at the attorneys right now and they're going over it to just polish it. As soon as it's polished, they'll come back to us. If it's so, looks pretty good, we're gonna approve it. We'll lift the moratorium on solar panels. Battery storage is gonna stay probably the 6 months because it's pretty serious stuff. We don't have enough information on how we're gonna deal with that in the future, so. Hopefully within a couple of months, it's lifted for you guys.
so is this one combined law or is it 2 separate laws? Do you know?
I do not know,
Okay.
actually.
I'm just wondering about
Yeah.
lifting the moratorium for a portion of the same law in comparison to.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's got, okay, I'll speak on that.
Okay. All right, T-bills, added a chart in your agenda showing the various T-bills along with their terms and existing rates and expirations. You'll see that T-bill number 2 is due to expire next month, and that will be on your agenda for your April meeting to discuss. Moving on to the website research project, the contract with Emery Designs has been executed. Betsy Emery and myself had a virtual meeting on March 5th to discuss the project and to establish the milestone dates. Betsy Emery, as of yesterday, commenced the audit, okay, of the various entities' websites. She expects that will not be completed until the end of May. At the same time, though, we're also going to be working on the customer development interview questionnaires, as well as finding at least 10 potential interviewees for each of those areas: housing, tourism, economic development. And so that's a work in progress. And I will continue to update you as to how that proceeds. Okay, done the audits. Okay, moving on, I guess, to item C, the ST62 form. Attached in your agenda. This is a form that we're required to file every year. Basically, it's making sure that you're in compliance with the state sales tax recapture. In 2024, the IDA did not amend any project sales tax exemptions. We did not move to recapture any sales tax benefits, and we did not approve any new sales tax exemptions itself. We're required to submit this by March 31, 2025 into Paris. You'll see that attached to the ST62 form, this information that you've sent in the past, basically just showing that you do have a process to recapture sales tax if needed. I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize the chair to sign and submit the ST62 form for fiscal year ending December 31, 2024.
I'll make the motion.
Joe Gill,
I'll second.
Dave, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Board training, okay. For the past couple of months, we've talked about the IDA policy 14, which is your UTEP. Last month, in your agenda, we discussed the various components of what is in General Municipal Law, Section 874, in comparison to what is in the current IDA's UTEP, as far as what you are to look at when providing incentives. Moving forward, at the last meeting, the consensus of the group was to add general language to the IDA's UTEP, referencing a general statement for Section 874, and you asked to fine tune some of the language that is within the IDA's current UTEP. So what I decided to do is develop a chart. On the left-hand column, you'll see the language that is specific to General Municipal Law, Section 874. In the center column is what is currently in your IDA UTEP. And then on the other column, it's proposed language. So what I would like to do is just go down through each of these and get a consensus as to whether or not you would like something changed. Or leave it as is. Hopefully you all had a little bit of time to look at this prior to the meeting. Again, you can have additional requirements within your UTEP, but you should at a minimum have what's identified in Section 874. Right, Kara?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Yes.
All right. So
You have to have 874. You can add additional.
right, correct. So you'll see where obviously you have added some additional language. And then some of the specific language that is within Section 874 is similar to what you have. But I'd like to go down through these. So I guess the first one, your current IDA UTEP, you are to consider the nature of the project. Whether it's manufacturing, commercial, tourism, high tech. Is there anything else in that you would like to add? Or would you like to leave it the same?
Well, do we want to add housing to it?
Be a good idea, in my opinion.
Well, my question was, do we need to list anything? Because I'm reading this as being, may include, but is not limited to.
Right.
Are we unfairly limiting ourselves by even listing the types of projects? Just asking the question.
Yeah, good question.
Or for what you just said, these are some suggested but not limited to. I mean, I know what you're saying, you could strike everything in the beginning and.
Well, I was just gonna leave everything, the very first part of the statement, the 5 words, the nature of the project, and then strike everything within the parentheses. Just,
And those are as in examples, right?
right. I mean, those are certainly typical examples. But who knows what the future holds for us in terms of our ability to consider any project.
I like the comment, Dave. I mean, I don't know what it doesn't add additional value by putting those on there, right? Because to your point, somebody could read that and go, housing's not on here. What are you doing anything with housing? So it's almost that.
TC.
I just to his comment, you can just stop at the nature of the project, right? We don't need to go into explanations. It could back you in a corner that's not really there to begin with.
Right.
So I would concur.
Kara, do you have anything to offer on that?
No, that's fine, to eliminate those specifics. I agree with that point. That makes sense.
All right. Are we in consensus then? All right, okay.
Are we keeping score for the number of suggestions?
I could have heard of a point on that one.
Okay, well, it's similar here. Number 2, the nature of the property before the project begins. Example, vacant land, vacant building, brownfield site, blight, adaptive reuse, etc.
Take a different view on this one, just in that this is, to me, serves a purpose because it's giving you, okay, this is kind of what we're looking for, right? Not necessarily, is it these things, but give us, when we say nature, what are we talking about? We're just talking about these kind of things. So I think that actually serves value there. And I would recommend keeping it as is, but up to you. Dave, what do you think? Similar, just strike it?
I was taking that approach. I don't know, I guess I'm in this frame of mind. Sometimes we over describe.
Yeah.
And we end up, to your point earlier, painting ourselves into a corner. I mean, I get the use of examples, but I think from the purpose of putting it into policy, fewer words to a degree gives us a little bit more latitude for consideration. If that's what our general consensus is concluding. I feel that's definitely needed in the first case. The second case, I'm a bit agnostic about.
Sometimes keeping things simpler is better, and then you can always put in there, if you need more information, reach out, and you can give more detail and discretion.
So what would we like to recommend?
I'm going to recommend that we adopt the same thing that we did in the first box and just strike the examples. And just make the statement, the nature of the property before the project begins.
Okay. You like the wording, the nature? Is there another word you'd like to use, or?
Yeah. The condition of the property, I don't know.
Type?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like nature.
Nature.
Okay.
We're a nature area.
Yes.
Well, we're striking the parentheses, is that?
Yeah, it's just no more description.
Do I got one for that there?
I think it's carry over. It's just gets the
50-50, half point.
half a
Okay.
sec.
Third one, the economic condition of the area at the time of application and the economic multiplying effect the project will have on the community.
I'm not sure how this is supposed to be gauged. It's been a while since we've looked at an application. How have prior applicants really brought that information to bear in an application?
I would just suggest taking multiplying effect and just changing it to impact.
But I mean, is this predicated on an actual economic evaluation of the area? Like somebody does an official report, or is this just somebody's from the hip idea? I mean, whose opinion are we taking here?
Right.
I would say some of your most recent applications have been based on job creation the investment, the private investment into the community, for instance, Vireo, how much money are they putting into the area as opposed to where other projects you might look at, like say a housing project, you might say, okay, if we're going to house X number of people, then so in connection with that, they're going to need places to go have coffee and this and that. Is that going to bring other businesses to the community? But I think your most recent projects like Vireo, and the water, I forget, CG Roxanne, that was the job creation counts really is what the board at that time reviewed.
Yeah, cause I like multiplying effect, change the impact, because the impact you're gonna have are job creation and private investment. They're the two big ones.
So the proposal is the economic condition of the area at the time of the application and the economic impact
Yes,
Big multiple, yeah.
the project will have on the community.
I'm cool with that.
Me is,
I'm on the board.
Okay. Now a comparison under general municipal law, the extent to which a project will create or retain permanent private sector jobs. And you have the same language, but you also include the number of jobs to be created, retained, and the level of wages paid. You're asking for additional information, but you are in compliance with section 874.
I like
I
the
like
way it
ours.
is.
Yeah, ours
Okay.
is robust.
So we're keeping ours.
Leave it as is, okay. The next one, the estimated value of any tax exemptions to be provided, that's exactly the same.
Why do we have to have it doubled?
He's just doing this for
This
comparison.
is comparison.
Yeah, I know, but why do we have to have it spelled out in ours if we have it word for word in the 874?
We have to adopt, ours has to
Right.
adopt what's in 874.
So we either we're adopting them as a group and making reference to 874, or
Right.
we're listing them out within the UTEP.
Right. So I think the whole premise here was at the last meeting, you said, well, why we're adding language in regards to child care, daycare services or what have you. We don't have that in our current UTEP. And then there's a discussion of just leaving a general blanket standard of, we will look at everything that's in 874 plus the additional language. I think, at that time it was just, let's compare the two, clean any of them up, but you wanted to update what was in your UTEP as well, so.
Well, so in box 4,
Mhm.
I mean, we do have additional things that go with that one, so that's fine with keeping that one, but I don't understand why word for word, we need to restate it in ours, when it's word for word in 874, which we have to consider anyway.
I don't know whether it'd just be efficiency, when you're looking at projects, you'd be looking down through the components of your UTEP. If you knew that they were already in compliance with section 874, we wouldn't have to pull 874. I mean, that's about the only reason I would know, but, I would recommend you leave it in as is, but it's up to you.
I kind of come back to the conversation we had about the audit, right? The annual report stuff is still right in the audit. So if you pick up one or the other, you don't have to go back and reference between the two. I understand your point though, but yeah, I don't think it harms it to keep it in.
Basically, the state is saying we have to have a UTEP that conforms to general municipal law, section 874.
Right, correct.
The form and manner in which we reference that is up to us, basically, right? So right now, we have chosen to list out everything. Well, 874 is fairly recent, right?
No, I don't. think so,
Okay. All right.
No,
Well-
it's just the recent change is the reference to the childcare.
I see.
Well, if we go a page ahead, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes where we don't specifically have verbiage
Right.
that mimics 874.
Right.
Correct. That's what we'll be discussing.
So we're looking to
Add.
add. I think we're getting too wordy, but
Mm.
that's me. If we have to follow 874 and that's already in our UTEP, why would we have to spell it all out?
Maybe there's additional language you want to add. to
And
that
I agree with
component?
that, and I agree with that, and that's what we've got going on in box 4.
So then Sue, are you saying that in the UTEP, we simply just say that we will consider all requirements through section 874 and then that's it?
Unless we have other things we want to add that are above and beyond or worded differently.
So are applicants gonna have, where do they get access to 874? Do we provide them a copy of it?
I do not believe it's listed in our current UTEP. Again, we would have to, as far as our application, et cetera, I think we would have, or I would have to continuously update that to make sure that we have any new updates from section 874.
I mean, to Sue's point, if we wanted to eliminate redundancy, we could take out things that aren't modified components of 874 and just hand people a copy of 874.
Yes, you paraphrase.
You could.
Well, to your point that you just made, if there are updates to that, then you don't have to go back and update ours anymore. Right? Because you're saying I don't have to make sure that they constantly match because we're using that as the core.
Yes.
If that's if that's the way you'd like to proceed, that's the core. And then if there's any additional considerations you'd like to include, you could just list those in your UTEP. So, Carrie, do you have a suggestion on that approach, or maybe an example of other IDAs and how they?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's necessary to relist out all of the language in 874 because to the point of anytime that gets amended, if you're modeling it perfectly, then we'd have to amend it every time. So, I mean, you'd have to make sure the board's going forward and everybody's aware of this, that every time there would be a modification made. I don't necessarily think it's hurts the IDA one way or the other because 874 is the state law. So you have to follow that regardless of what it says. But to the point of what does the applicant know? What are they responding to when they're completing the application? Yeah, I mean, they might not know what 874 lists out. So, I mean, you could put a link to 874 on your webpage and that would update automatically, but I don't necessarily think that.
Change, we need to make a change, and we need to remember we need to make a change.
Yeah,
You're
I
on-
think other IDAs in their UTEPs. I think in some other IDA's cases, they look at the UTEP and list out specifics when they want to incentivize the project with what's like an enhanced pilot, like a longer term or something like that. And then they'll say, well, this project, these are the reasons why, these are the things we looked for, and they have additional needs. So we would approve a 15-year pilot as opposed to our standard 10 or something like that. And then that's when those additional criteria really gets, I would say, more scrutinized.
Okay. So it could just simply be the IDA will review projects per general municipal law section 874 plus these additional.
Yeah.
These additional.
Mhm.
Guess that's up to you if that's the way you'd like to proceed.
I'm comfortable with that. I agree with the point of not having to go back and revise these once 874 has been updated. Whatever frequency the state deems necessary.
Okay.
Agreed.
I can tell you that Warren Washington IDA was sued on one of the points in a lawsuit was that the language wasn't updated when the law was updated, and that's what the municipality that sued the IDA, that's what one of the arguments they made was that it hadn't been updated. It was thrown out. That argument was thrown out because the law, we have to go with the law, not what we put in this UTEP. But I mean, it was a point of argument, I suppose.
Okay. All right. So let's use the fourth as an example, okay? Fourth column down under the IDA's current. The first part of that paragraph is exactly what's in section 874, but do you want to add another one that they remove everything that's in the front, but that you also consider the number of jobs to be created, retained, and the level of wages paid?
Yes, I
So
think.
that's outside of what they're.
That would be an RU test.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we strike out all of that. And we will just leave the second part of that sentence.
That's part of RU test.
Yeah,
Perfect.
okay, and then we are removing everything in the fifth column, correct? Okay, because it's already in,
Yes.
okay, right, we're on the same page?
Yep.
All right. So the sixth one, something you have individually, the economic impact of the project and the proposed tax exemptions on affecting tax jurisdictions. Leave as is. Rewords.
I was I think the intent there is to. Obviously, we have partners, school districts, cities, villages.
Mhm.
That may want that information or have access to it.
Right, okay. See the GML 874, the impact of a proposed project on existing and proposed businesses and economic development projects in the vicinity. And we have the impact of the project on existing businesses in the community.
So we strike ours.
Strike it all together and just leave
the 874 language.
everybody in agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see, the amount of private investment generated by the project. See GML, the amount of private sector investment generated or likely to be generated by the proposed project.
Again, I think we strike out ours.
Ours, yep, agreed, okay. Well, I think we strike ours entirely in the next one, it's
Yep.
exactly the same. Let's see. Services, including but not limited to additional education. Okay, police, emergency, medical, pretty much it's saying the same thing, and we may have added one additional.
We have roads.
We just said police protection. And we have roads.
And infrastructure.
I think we can strike ours.
I do.
Yeah, so just strike ours and we're not gonna worry about the roads and, okay.
Well, I mean, you got transportation.
Yeah,
We're
Yeah,
good
that
with that.
bucket, right? Okay, the next one, the extent, well, this is unique to us, the extent to which the project will provide a benefit, economic or otherwise, to the municipality in which the project is located. Read?
Yeah.
Okay. The extent to which the proposed project will provide additional sources of revenue for municipalities and school districts. Pretty much the same, and we just have additional language in where the project is located. I think that's
Implied.
kind of implied.
Yeah.
You want to strike ours?
Strike ours.
All right, next, unique to the IDA, the extent to which the project enhances the quality of life of people in the community. For recreation, removal of blight, brownfield redevelopment.
My suggestion is we keep that because we redid our incentives a few years ago to target specifically some of these
Mhm.
outside of the standard language, so I'd say we keep it.
Agreed.
Do you want to add, well, if you're gonna add that, do you want to say anything specific to housing? Or no? No? Let's leave as is.
I like the way it is.
Yes.
Well, are we saying that the quality of life impacts limited to the idea of recreation, removal of blight and brownfield, or are there other quality of life things? So to
Maybe
the,
we want to get rid of the explanations.
that's where I was heading, is get rid of the parenthetical piece and let them define what that means. I mean, Scott's gonna help usher an application through. If they get stuck on a question, he can certainly offer some color commentary on what that means.
I think the reason we had this in here is because we redid, remember, we had special
Yeah.
pilots,
Yep.
which were brownfield, adaptive reuse, and tourism. So I think the recreation was the tourism, The removal of blight was the adaptive reuse, and the brownfield redevelopment was the brownfield projects. I think we specifically put this in here because we did this.
So does it need to stay?
I think it needs to stay if we're gonna consider,
Why would it have to stay if we're gonna consider those?
we're considering these outside. We did these specially for us to try to promote these. I think that's where that language came from.
Okay, so you're saying it needs to be limited to just those three
I
in
said
terms
yes,
of
because,
quality of life?
right. Because we have someone who comes in with an application for a brownfield project.
Mm-hmm.
We've got special tax
No, I
exemptions.
hear what you're saying. I'm
But
cool.
we also have a housing title. And we don't have housing listed in this. Correct? We incentivize housing,
We say housing on a case by case basis, though.
but it's still there, so, and
Yeah,
it's not in this current description, so.
yeah, so
I
I would,
think if you're gonna do that, then you wanna add housing.
Add housing.
I would agree.
Well, and then you obviously,
I don't know.
We'll adopt the other ones,
874.
is there anything additional language in any one of those that you would like to include? Or you just wanna leave it generic as to 874? It's kind of interesting, the first one, whether affected tax jurisdiction shall be reimbursed by the project occupant if the project does not fulfill the purposes for which an exemption was provided. Kara, do you have any examples where an IDA may have utilized that?
I mean, that's a tough one because I mean,
Yeah.
I think you're looking at it to say you'd be looking to see if the project was going to be a failure from the get-go. So it's,
Exactly, it's,
you know,
I mean, I guess if we were swamped with projects constantly, but we clearly
I
aren't
mean-
swamped with projects.
the law says that we are only allowed to offer incentives to projects that need us. So to say that, it's to say that they're going to probably be like potentially could be a failure and then not be successful with recapture is really, I mean, it's kind of a real stretch of an argument to make at the time of the application, I would think.
Right.
Yeah, but we have no choice. It's part of 874, right?
It's in a.
Right. I mean, I don't think anyone could have thought the fact pattern up for Johnstown Renewables project.
Right, that's where I went to. Right, that's where I went to on it, but. The demonstrated public support for the proposed project.
They have a public hearing on every one, so.
Yep. Anything that's over 100,000, right, in the incentives. The likelihood of accomplishing the proposed project in a timely fashion. I think we've looked at that in the past, right? We kind of want to know what their goal is to end it right. The extent to which the project will utilize to the fullest extent practical and economically feasible resource conservation, energy efficiency, green technologies, and alternative and renewable energy measures. Then last, the extent to which the project will provide on-site childcare services or otherwise facilitate new childcare services. And that's the one that was recently added to 874. All right. Any further comments, questions, or concerns? So I guess we should entertain a motion. This would be to correct myself to amend the IDA's UTEP to add general language referencing General Law Section 874, as well as adopting the amended items currently within the IDs UTEP or something similar to that.
We're basically saying, in addition to 874, we will consider the following.
Correct. Yeah, so those will be identified directly in there, and I like Kara's idea of adding that link directly to 874, so I'll ask Betsy to do that for us. Somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Dave,
Second.
Dan?
I can't.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Gotta jump in there quick.
Yeah, sorry, if I move a little too fast, just slow me down. I'm fine. All right, anything else that you'd like to discuss in open business before we go into executive session? No? All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session for the reasons stated in your agenda. Somebody like to make that motion?
Make that motion.
Mike? Joe Simeon? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, all right, executive session at 9:00 a.m.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Out of executive session at 9:55 a.m. Next meeting is April 8th, and would someone like to make a motion to close the
I will
meeting?
make the motion to close the meeting.
Okay, made by Sue, seconded by Mike, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Just a reminder, I will not be here in April.
right?
All of April or just the April meeting?